the one thing I do got to say, I got to say, and it's kind of cool for all of us, is hey, my Reds made the playoffs, limped in thanks to the Mets losing today. But hey,
Yanks are in.
all three of us have in our own cities have teams in the baseball playoffs.
Yes, we
Cubs,
do.
the Yankees are in, and the Reds are in. Now, how long we stay in? We got the Dodgers, so probably going to.
Cubs.
Yeah, Cubs. I don't.
Won their division.
Yeah, they won their division.
No, they didn't. Milwaukee won their division. Cubs are wild card.
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're right. Yeah, we just beat Milwaukee 2 out of 3 to put us in the.
So speaking of athletics, we're talking the long walk.
That's
right. That's right. It takes endurance.
It takes endurance. It takes a lot of expanded storytelling also.
Right. Well, much like a baseball season, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. I'll put it that way.
True that.
All right. Well, welcome back to another episode of Postmortem Radio. I'm your host, Oz. Even though it says my legal name, you can take that out there. I didn't have time to change it. Joined, as always, by the lovely blonde in front, Katie. How we doing?
We are doing great.
Awesome. And also JK, the other one, he's also, I see, wearing
the other one. I like that. I'm like a third wheel.
Other host, my other co-host.
No, I'm ribbing you, Oz. It's great to be back, and yes, I'm wearing the hat for postmortem.
You said you wanted a trucker hat.
I do. I wanted the trucker, and I've been wearing this around town, and people have been walking in the other direction, so it's been effective.
Awesome. Yeah, if anybody, of the 4 people that listen to us, if you would like one, message the show and we'll figure it out. We'll figure out a way to get you. Should have some shirts and other swag going. Hey, did you give any of those keychains away? We got keychains too.
I did. I gave keychains away as well. Yes, I did.
Awesome. So our episode tonight is about The Long Walk. An adaptation from Stephen King novel. Was it a novel or was it a short story? This is one I did not get to read.
I think it was a novel, if I'm correct. I don't know if I have it though. Let's see.
I thought it was a short story. It was when he was under Richard Bachman.
See.
I thought it was short story too, but then I keep hearing
or novella, whatever.
Let's see. What book was it in?
I am not sure.
Here you go. There it is.
Is that what it was in? It was in that one?
That's the one. Yep, the Bachman books. Yep. #1 bestseller. I have it in paper. I might have it in hardcover as well. I have a whole bunch. So.
Well, and like The Running Man,
Running Man's in there too.
Which will be the 4th Stephen King adaptation hitting big screens this year, because The Running Man is supposed to come out, I believe, in October or November of this year.
Early November.
That's 4 films based on Stephen King material.
Yes, and
The Long Walk is #3.
Yes, and who would have thought Stephen King now will be the cry of millennials and Gen Z, that their suffering is felt by a man? Because in The Long Walk, Stephen King is no more about horror. He's about heart and building spirit. And let's go back to it and find out what the kids did in that sewer. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, this one I've always tried to read before I see the movies, but so this one I don't have a basis on what differs from the film to the short story or whatever. So I guess I have to go back and do that backwards.
Long Walk, as we've talked about, based on a Stephen King novella when he was under his pseudonym Richard Bachman, is about 50 young men who are chosen in a kind of voluntary draft. One boy from each state is chosen to do the long walk. It is after it's 19 years after a war has torn the country apart. And as the major or the general, played by Mark Hamill. Each year they have the long walk. It shows they are telecasting this throughout the country, and it's each year when the boy who ends up winning, the gross national product raises, enthusiasm raises for the country. So it's just, one of those things that it's like, this is good for the country to sacrifice 49 boys to have one, raise up everything. I after I saw it, when people ask me about it, I would say it's like if Stand By Me and Full Metal Jacket kind of
Right.
like intertwined in a
Yeah.
diluted color dystopian Hunger Games world. Without all the hoopla and stuff like that. And Francis Lawrence, who is the director who did a number of the Hunger Games films, I think is an excellent choice as director. I think this film does have a lot of heart. I think it does have a lot of scary moments. Just in the premise of the film is that all these boys have to walk, and it's basically walk or die. They have to walk at a minimum pace of 3 miles an hour, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
And you don't stop. You don't stop to pee. You don't stop to rest. You don't stop to eat. You don't stop to, as we see in this film a number of times, you don't stop to shit. And it's just the exhaustion mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, that it's not only the physicality of what's going on, but just wrapping your head around everything. We see they give examples of some of the boys, like hopes and dreams, like why they decided to do this, why what their end game is about it. Some are very interesting, some are very superficial in ways, but it's all the thing that really makes this film different than a lot of dystopian films is that even though is only one winner, you have these relationships that are founded early on and how that keeps them going, even though they know this is their competition. Like they each want each other to win in different ways and whatnot. And that's really like a special part about this film. I thought the performances were excellent by a number of the boys. David Janssen, who's in Alien Romulus, who was a standout in this, again, kills it. I had some people who actually had some issues with his accent, that they thought they heard a lot of the British in his accent. I personally did not. And believe me, I was looking for that. Cooper Hoffman.
What was supposed to be from like Baton Rouge or something like that? So it made sense that he had a little bit of an accent, and it
Well, I mean, they're talking about because he's from England. They said he could hear
Right.
his English accent, but that was one of the things that I didn't necessarily, because it's like they're saying that he's from Baton Rouge, but then or somebody I feel like somebody's from Shreveport, and I last time I checked I thought those were both in Louisiana, but I wasn't necessarily. It's a new world. There's a war. Who knows what the divides are. I did find it very interesting though, and possibly, I mean, again, there's differences in the film and the book. I found that out horribly because I decided to talk to someone who loves the book. It's one of their favorite books, and I discussed the ending, and that is not the ending that happened in the book. So if we have some spoilers, just be aware right now the ending of the book and the ending of the film are vastly, vastly different. But one of the things that, since the nature of this competition is like, I think you have to be a minimum 16 to maybe 20. There's a very limited age, and this has only gone on 19 years. One of the things that I thought that kind of confused me, it's like with something like this, I mean, this is obviously something that the nation would probably have to watch because it's a very kind of militarized country now, free thinking and anything like that is very much actually some people are put to death because of certain things that they are saying and thinking about that we find out in exposition from people's lives. But I would have thought that there would have been more discussion from the boys walking regarding what the winners chose. Like, one of the things is that they really make a big deal that one of the winners chose an elephant, and immediately they had an elephant come out and he like got on the back of it and rode away. And that's one. I mean, I would have thought that this, they would have known these people's names. They would have known, all this stuff. Or there even would have been a thing about which state has had the most winners. Because let's be honest, people are competing. It's a competition. We've got our four core kids who, bonded together and like they're going to be the four musketeers and all this stuff. But there are other people who are doing this who are just assholes, who are on this path for whatever reason. And I feel like, in a way, and this is just me, that there would have been something. It's like, well, I'm from this state and we've had the most winners, and I'm from this state and we've had the most winners. I actually saw it twice in the theater because I wanted to rewatch a couple things, because at one point I thought they only had like 49 boys. They do have 50. I do like the fact that Mark Hamill is definitely, gravitating towards his Darth Vader moment and Darth Vader role in this film. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, these kids go through all the elements. They go through everything that you could possibly think of, and still keep going. One thing I didn't like, though, is that a scene that's in a trailer is not in the film, which talks about, it's not about just walking. It's about, you have to make sure you have your mind. You have to make sure you have this. You have to make sure you have all that going to make it to the end. I think that would have been a great thing to have in the film. It was not. It was in a trailer, and I made sure to watch it twice. And it's like, yeah, it is not in the movie. I think Cooper Hoffman, I'm liking how he's getting better and better and better since Licorice Pizza. David Janssen, fantastic. And, there's a number of other young actors in here that are doing Charlie Plummer, who kind of goes batshit. And, again, this is a world that seems a little bit going batshit when you can't be thinking about, I don't know, freely of what you want to do. But a standout that was a little bit, and the only woman in the cast, Judy Greer. This is something I've never seen her in before. And as little scenes that she had, nailed it, just killed it as Ray Garrity, who is Cooper Hoffman's mom. I recommended seeing this. I liked it from beginning to end. And I'll let you guys say what you want to say.
So I have to agree on majority of what Katie has said. And, I only saw this once, and once was enough for me when it came to this. But it doesn't take away that this is one of the better adaptations of what King's work has been. The Life of Chuck was good, but I think The Life of Chuck was a bit melodramatic. That's why I said now, he is the empowering voice instead of the frightening voice when it comes to it, because we live in a world now where everyone, and I heard a great thing today, and I kick myself for not remembering where I heard it from, but we live in the world. Oh, it was the trailer actually last night for the new Julia Roberts film. They had a great line in it that said, you have to live in, we have to, paraphrasing, you have to live in a world with round edges, not sharp points. And we live in the world now with round edges where it's always about an excuse, or it's always about this reason, or it's broken down with all these things that are wrong, and there's no consequences. And I think this film, I think The Life of Chuck really was at the forefront of this. This, however, The Long Walk, while it was empowering, it was also brutal at times. The pooping scenes over and over and over and over again were a bit much, but I digress.
Once would have been more than enough to.
But you know what? They go ahead, Oz, and if you had shown another one and you kind of left it to the viewer to imagine that, instead of having a different angle from behind instead of in front and being counted down, we got it the first time, so it's a bit much. But again, I digress.
Agreed.
One of the things that Katie had brought up about Full Metal Jacket, and I think because I looked it up, this is year 46 since the novella came out in the Bachman books. I have a paperback. I read it a long time ago, and to be honest, I don't remember much about it. Some of King's work stands out. That's not one that stood out for me. However, though, Hollywood loves to twist King's work in any way they feel that fits their agenda for the most part. And for me, obviously, this story is very much influenced by Vietnam, hugely
Yeah.
influenced by Vietnam. The idea of young kids being drafted, thrown into something that they know they're not coming home from, to build propaganda for their country. And again, I thank soldiers for their service, but to a certain extent, if you look at the war, there was that propaganda angle. Every war has that propaganda angle, and the Long
Yep.
Walk, which was wrote in 1979, excuse me, hugely influenced by Vietnam. And having the director of some of the Hunger Games films come on board, turning it into that kind of story. And I'm glad it didn't fully go Hunger Games, which I was a little worried it might go full Hunger Games as a part of this. I'm glad. I love the simplicity of it. I love the fact that you have some amazing performances. Do I think that this film should have been adapted? I'm not so sure about that, because one thing we're learning more and more and more is that when it's a novella, you have to fill in a lot of parts to make it work as a feature, and that's problematic when it comes to it. That's was one of the problems when it came with the life of Chuck. There's a lot of things you've got to be able to fill in to make that system work. And why the Long Walk had tremendous performances, and I believe I'm correct in this. And Katie, I don't know if you can correct me, but Garrett Waring, who ended up, spoiler alert, because it's been out for a while, who ended up playing the son of the major that we
Yeah.
find out at the end. I thought his performance was pretty great. I loved how they dehumanized him as it went through, and how his character really went in a very negative way, having a full character arc, because a lot of these characters are very expendable characters for a reason. You even have the kid from Jojo Rabbit, Taiki Waititi's film. He's there. He's much more grown up. Unfortunately, he's expendable. So you're right about the core four that are up there. It's very empowering. It also shows it's a portrait of race relations and how people come together under extreme circumstances through mistrust, trust. But I also agree with Katie in the fact that a very key scene about the mental preparation was left out. The director,
Yeah.
though, however, which I give credit to the director, not a lot of things are spoon fed to you in this film. You had to work for it just like they had to work for it to get through it. And having that visualization, having the characters and their portrayals and the dialogue show you the mental preparation, because I don't know about you guys, but I can't walk and sleep. I would love to know how that trick is done to walk
Yeah.
and sleep like that and to go through all that. One other thing I'll throw out there also, and this goes to Judy Greer's performance, which I thought was fantastic. I
Yes.
think they did something really, really smart they haven't done in a while with the King adaptation. The moment that she breaks down and she hugs him and cries, you are invested in what's going to happen with her. Now, I think we talked about this off broadcast here about her showing back up at the end. I think that's something that would have been effective when it came to it, more effective than what it was. But again, they changed the ending. They did different things with it. But that is one of the best emotional scenes I've seen this year. That is a catalyst for what the narrative is going to be, because it's shot in a nice medium. You see her face, you see more of her face than his, so we don't need his reaction because we don't want to know what he's going through until he gets on that long walk.
Well, there's time to get to his.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
what she's able to do, Oz and Katie, is phenomenal in that emotional moment and the limited time that she had on there, and
And
gives us
given,
reason why.
and given that is I mean, every parent knows. I mean, can
Yes.
that's what every parent's worst fear is to. And you could, I mean, I could feel her like anguish when she's hugging him, thinking that this could be the last time that I ever hug
And
my child. And I mean, that,
yeah.
like you said, that immediately, like, you're invested 100.
And I'll throw this as kind of a reversal. What was Hoffman's first name, Katie?
Ray Garrity.
Ray Garrett. No, no, no. His real name. What's Hoffman's real name?
Oh, Cooper Hoffman.
Cooper Hoffman. You better believe that he had that emotion thinking about his father, Philip Seymour Hoffman, because he lost him pretty early on in life, and to go through a scene like that, there might have been a reason why we didn't see his face.
I didn't even realize that he was Philip Seymour Hoffman's son.
He even looks like him, and I didn't realize that at the beginning either. Later on, I did, and it was it's remarkable casting, and it shows that he definitely has the genes to be as great as his father.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, his dad. I mean, I loved his dad and everything I saw him in. Pretty much. I mean, he was so talented. But one thing that you said too about, you know, I think you and I talked about this, about Judy Greer. You know, it was a big miss for them to not have her at the end, especially the way that they did wrap it up and end it. It would have just been even more. I mean, if it wasn't already an emotional.
Well, it's about solidarity. It's not about family. It's about solidarity and revolution.
And from the way it starts, you know, since they know that they're going to go through Ray's town, that he'll probably see his mom. But from what this understanding, there's not supposed to be any crowds. There's not supposed to be favoritism for any
until the end.
Certain person until the end, when the crowd is there and it's down to that too. Then you have the people, but it's only in that town. So I don't think his mom. It's not something his mom could have gone to anyway. And probably, I don't know if we're gonna talk about things. It's come out. We'll wait until the end to talk about spoilers.
Okay. Well, I threw one out there already, folks. I'm sorry, but spoilers are there. I mean, it's been out several weeks now.
We talk about spoilers, and especially once it's been out for a couple of weeks. So, I mean, you know, if you haven't learned by now, if you start watching, then you're gonna maybe hear something. So it's on every episode. It's a spoiler review. So
it happens.
You know, come back after you've seen it. Watch us. You're more than welcome to, you know, come back and drop a comment. Tell us what you think. Say what you think about what we said. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I also really enjoyed this film. I really do. I also had that Hunger Games feel at the beginning, and was like, this sort of feels like a Hunger Games, but I'm glad it didn't. It seemed like a grittier Hunger Games. You know, Hunger Games was all like, you know, futuristic and you know, clean, and this just seemed more gritty to me. More seemed like it was founded in like more reality, I guess. But the biggest thing is that I did not realize that was even Mark Hamill until I saw his name on the screen.
Yeah,
I did.
I did. I didn't I mean, I think it was the voice, because the voice threw me off. Because through the movie, I was like, man, I've seen this guy somewhere before. I can't place it. And he had the Skywalker, you know, old man Skywalker beard and all that. But I think it was the voice that he had, that like Marge Schott sounding voice, and that I think that's what threw me off. Because a lot of times when, especially in films, when, you know, an actor has makeup or prosthetic, whatever, I'm usually really good about being able to identify somebody a lot of times by their voice, if not by, you know, if they've got a lot of prosthetics and things on. So that was really a shocker for me. And I, you know, his character didn't have a whole lot of depth to it, but
no, I think that's an editing problem, because they wanted to make it more about solidarity, about the walk. But I don't know about the two of you, but I kind of grew tired after a while of the same old, same old. I'm sorry. I needed more from other characters.
It would have been nice to have had a little bit, you know, a couple of minutes or something to show, like, how did this major get to this position? How did he, you know, something other than just he's the guy who's in charge and just follows them. And other than they talked about, oh, he gets to shower and he gets to do all this other stuff. I mean, the thing that I love the most about this film is, and I think I told you this, Jay, is that it's a lot, in a lot of ways it goes full circle, because it's about losing your humanity and then and gaining it back in the same instance, or not instance, but the same situation that you're in. Um, and in a lot of ways, people, like Katie talked about, that were the asshole. Then they came back and tried to redeem themselves, in the, but I thought it was a really good, I don't know, it was definitely a very difficult watch for sure.
Yes.
There was a lot of time, and there were times where I was sitting there and I was like, man, I'm dreading the next, one that goes or whatever. And at times it does seem so brutal and cold and heartless. But then the beautiful part is the the kids, that the relationships that they formed, and that they genuinely cared about each other. And like Jay said, even though they were ultimately, these are 50 individuals competing against, every one of them's competing against 49 other ones, and they all know that there's only going to be one that survives. 49 of us are going to die. But and I don't know that they so much were rooting for the others to win. It was just that they didn't want them to die, and they wanted to help them out to make it as long as they could. Because I know they don't, you want yourself to survive, but I don't know. And
Yeah.
that's the way I took it, was that they didn't necessarily want this person to die or to win, but they didn't want him to die, and they're going to help him out as long as they can.
Well, one thing, Oz, I'll real quick is, and you bring up a really good point. It's also 50 diverse boys, because there was not, besides costuming, you had a range of everything from Black to Asian to Hispanic to, you just go right down the line. Native American, you had a wide range, which I thought was a great element. But I think one of the things, in Katie, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, is not having the exposition on how they're chosen. I got from the character David Johnson.
Johnson, yeah.
Yes, the one who played Peter. I got kind of a biblical vibe from that character, because it seemed no matter what, he was there. And no matter what, it felt like he was never going to go anywhere. He was always upbeat. He was always in the right, even though this was turning into a hell slowly and surely with every single mile. It felt like there was almost a different purpose for that character when it came to the race. And even at the end, when the decision is made and they're the last two standing, it feels like there was a higher power involved with it. Maybe, I know, Oz, you're more the faith person, but I had that kind of feeling going through as the character of Peter was developed more.
Well,
one of the things that I mean, there is an aspect of religion in a number of the characters, but I also, like, the farther you get down the line, it's also the fact that every day that these guys go, the more that we see them, it's like they're the ones who are going to make that decision of when they're done. And it's like, no matter how each one of the, it's like, no, he's like, they're like, no, one of them even says, that was one that teared me up, when he was like, look, I know I'm not going to make it. I know you guys have a better chance. All I ask is that you don't turn around and watch it. And it's like, I love you guys and all that stuff. And that, to me, I was like tearing up with that, because it's like, oh, and I don't know. It's like, he was, this character was very outspoken when somebody else was getting bullied, and he was very much one of the, four musketeers and stuff like that. But we don't know too much about him, but it was just enough that I was like, I'm invested in this guy. I know he's, they're gonna, everyone's gonna have to die except for one. But this one, I was like tearing up, and I mean, there aren't a lot of movies that have made me tear up this year. And I was like, damn you, Francis Lawrence and Stephen King. It's like, I was not expecting this. And there were a number of them, though, that had that moment where they're like, look, I have to do this. I can't. It's like, just like out of the pain or whatever it was about him. And while some like tried to get them to come up, others are like, you guys are supposed to be doing this. I can't. I'm done. And, good luck and stuff like that. So I liked the fact. And then there were some who had, more violent ways that they decided
Right.
to, have that be, on their terms, and, have violent ways to have it be on their terms, and take out as many as they could, which again,
Right.
it's what we learned from the beginning. It's like, some of these kids, one died from a cramp in his leg after 15 miles, and he just couldn't get it out, and he just was in such pain. And that was immediate. It's like, because it's very clever how they say it's like, punch your ticket or something. It's something like that. They never say they're going to kill you or whatnot. It's like, when your ticket is done or something like that. And then it's like,
They
then
got
they
my
see
ticket.
then when you see the first one, it's like, oh, and I forgot to mention too, that whoever wins gets unlimited riches and one wish, which they can wish for anything.
Katie,
But
Katie, the dog tags is another tip towards Vietnam, but I love how they do that as the way to kind of classify them. You talk about punching their ticket.
yeah,
It's a great thing with it, with the numbers and all that
Because
stuff.
that's how you get your dog tags are punched.
Exactly, and you're a number.
And yeah, and I think it's ironic. Is it ironic that the main character is 47? Was that intentional?
Well,
I,
you know what I read? I read somewhere that it was in honor of King's birthday, the year he was born. That's where I had read that. But I'm going to tell you this: the more I listen to you two talk, the more I think that Stephen King had the gym class from hell to write something like this.
well, one thing I'll say before we go, we kind of touched on the religious part of it, and you felt like you had this, Peter had this. Well, I don't know. I don't think it may not be a coincidence that his name is Peter,
Right.
as one
Right.
of
Biblical.
the most beloved disciples. So I mean, he was he seemed like he had a lot of what's the word?
Faith,
Philosophy.
philosophy.
Yes.
He was very, almost beyond his years for portraying such a young person, especially who had gone, but maybe that's because of the trauma that he went through, that he, and a lot of, so there's that. I think that there was a lot of religious undertones here. I mean, with him, and then also with the guy who was the a-hole, who you don't have good without evil.
Right. A little Iago.
If they were all, I mean, it wouldn't work if it was just 50 guys walking around and they were all just singing Kumbaya. So, I mean, I think it was a good way of showing diversity of not only race and, class, whatever, but also and good and evil. I mean, you had some that you thought were really good people. Some people you were like, maybe in the right circumstance, he's a good person if it benefits him. And then you had one,
right,
and this was just rotten as shit. He's just a bad apple. That's all there is.
Well, yeah, and like the differentiating idealisms with everybody and stuff like that. Because yeah, I mean, Gary obviously had like some cousins that probably got together and probably had him, and that's why. And he's number 5, who's played by Charlie Plummer, and that's why he was a little off. But then when the things that he did came to fruition, like if you're bullying somebody and stuff like that because you want them to be out, it's like, but then that actually happens and then everyone else calls you out on it. It's like, well, then you're still on your own, but now you're on your own with a bunch of people like coming after you. And that's something that I don't think he ever got over. Like he never thought that a death that he basically did cause was his fault. And it's like,
right.
If you had not done A and B, C would not have happened. So yeah,
Right.
no, then yeah, that is you.
And I think that too calls to the generation of kids today that they fail to, in a lot of senses, take a look in the mirror and see any faults or anything that they need to correct on their own. Like when we grew up, it's like, hey, you screwed up, you need to fix it. Now it's always someone else's fault. It's always someone else's fault. And now he's forced to wear what he caused. And he still, I didn't kill him. I didn't kill, but you know what? You did. And now you have to wear it. And I think that's missing in a lot of the generations that's coming up today.
Yeah, there's no circumstances. There's no consequences for actions.
Consequences, and it's always someone else's reason as to why, this, that, or the other. I mean, trust me, I hear it all the time.
Accountability.
Yep.
Well, speaking of accountability, I want to say real quick that the crew that Francis Lawrence brings, he brought the DP, he brought the editor, he's brought a lot of crew from the Hunger Games movies. So I give a lot of credit for what they're able to do on that set to keep it interesting. Again, I felt it was a little bit too long, but you can look at Behind Oz right now at the wide shot of all of them walking. You dealt with nature, you dealt with a lot of elements, you dealt with a lot of framing and angles to keep it fresh, because not every conversation is just a two shot where it's a medium right there. No, you're trying all different kinds of things to be able to stimulate that activity that weaves into the story. In fact, the first death is brutal and it's up close and it's personal, it's in your face. Mm-hmm. And it kind of goes back to more of the traditional horror, which J.T. Molnar, who did Angels and Angels and Dreams, I believe. It was a film from a long time ago, Angels and Cowboys, a long time ago. I had a chance to talk with him way back when, and he's always been someone who's been very passionate about story. So when you adapt something like this visually, you've got to find a way to make it interesting. And on different sections of the country, it's spread out with the variety, the hundreds of miles that are there, but they don't allow it to get stale. They don't allow it to get stale with the backdrops and how they frame and how they're shooting this kind of film. Because there's plenty of films where they go for a walk and you sit there and you're like, oh my God, it's one shot the entire way. No, these personalities are also reflecting in what the visual presentation we see and how it's put together later on with Mark Yoshikama, I believe. He's the editor for it, and he has a stellar record. He has a stellar slate of films where he's able to really craft out that story, including the Hunger Games films, and it really reflects with this.
Yeah.
I wish that I would have liked to have seen this, or if it could be adapted into a more of a miniseries, like an episodic, because there is one, especially on day one. I think it's let's see. 1 second. I wrote down the notes. On mile 35. Yeah, it's mile 35, I think, when they have to walk up a hill and it's still day one. I would have liked to have seen a little bit of exposition in day one in the first episode. And then I feel like episode 2, because of that whole night, that when they go up that hill, that could have been a nonstop 1-hour episode, because that's when the majority of the kids end up dying, because you are at an incline, but you still have to do that 3 miles an hour, which, believe me, I have tried doing that. I did a marathon in Australia, and when you have an incline, you have to do that. That is a son of a bitch. And that is a whole different beast than what you are doing and what you will be doing. And yeah, I could, if they had done this into a miniseries, I think I would have even enjoyed it more. I really liked, again, this film, but I did have there were some interesting factors. Like, one of the things that did confuse me is when Ray was getting dropped off by his mom, and his mom said, we can talk to the major, and, he can get you out of it, which then you find out that, and this is a spoiler, kids, we find out that the major shot his dad in the head in front of Ray and his mom. So it was one of those things to me. It's like, why would you have a great relationship with the major? And then it's the whole thing, like Jay said, that you said about Teppins, that's Stebbins, that's Garrett Waring and stuff like that. When we find out that, the reason why he wants to do this is that he want his one wish is to have a meal with his father, or at tea with his father, who ends up being the major, because the major apparently has gone around to many households and has many kids and stuff like that. So the first screening that I had, I asked, it's like, so is there a chance that Ray Garrity is the major's kid? Because it doesn't really fall in line with the facts that, you know, Ray's dad got shot in front of him. And the person who was doing that, it's like, that is a very interesting point. And I'm like, yeah, because why would the mom automatically, it's like, well, I can talk to the major. It's like, why would he care what you have to say?
He looks more like Mark Hamill than he does the father who was shot.
He does,
Katie.
and that's the thing.
That's who I thought it was.
Yeah, and that was one of those things that it's like, and obviously with this is very much has that Hunger Games, and yet also sort of like after the Russian Revolution, where military personnel would very much take advantage of women in households, and there were a number of children that came for that, and it's like, oh well, we're going to send your husband away and all that stuff, and that happened. It made me think that is like, is that a possibility and all that stuff. So I don't know. Again, I always like the fact that this is a almost 50-year story or whatnot, and there's always questions and theories that people can come up with and all that. And again, I think, maybe there is a possibility, and I would really like to see if this could turn into a miniseries, because I think they could do a lot about that, maybe even a little bit into what happened with the major, how he became what he became, because in some ways he reminds me of sort of like Anne Dowd in The Handmaid's Tale, how her intentions at first were good, and then that flipped into the extreme that she was, and if that could be a possibility with him, or the whole thing that one of the reasons why a war starts is to take people out of power and bring it to the people. But usually when that happens, that's when the nefarious people become even more powerful and stuff like that. I got real deep, kids. I mean, real deep.
Well, you know what? Real quick,
hole, but...
I know we're coming up on it shortly, but two things. One, when JT wrote this, I'm very interested, and I should reach out to ask him, because he wasn't on my bingo card to adapt the Stephen King novella. And I'm curious how he got that opportunity to put it in front of a director like Francis Lawrence, who had done a ton of big budget stuff, and have King sign off on it. So it's really interesting to know where that came from, because I could see this also, Katie, I agree, as like an AMC series. You can see everything, even if it looked just the way that the film adaptation. But I think, as much as I love what Mark's body of work is as an editor, they trimmed it down to under an hour and 40 minutes. You could have made this 2 hours and been comfortable with adding exposition. This is a question I'll throw out to you guys. Is this a project where you need a narrator to talk about what happened and kind of fill in those holes, to kind of give breaks in between the walking and kind of give that exposition, Katie, you were talking about, up the hill? You have that 30 seconds of narration by I guess Peter would be the one, or someone who had documented it, whatever it is, whatever it ends up being, having that narration in. It might have flowed better. I can't speak tonight. Flowed better, but also it would have given us that extra boost to kind of fill in those holes that I think the edit kind of killed.
See, I didn't think there was I didn't have an issue with the flow, especially when the exposition scenes were when Ray was like dozing while he was walking, and Peter's like basically carrying him and stuff like that. But it would have been interesting to see that with like maybe one or two other guys and stuff. But again, the main reason that Ray Garrity is the main character. So, and the main reason why he's doing this and what his wish was, we really need to see that and understand it. And then how that transpired at the end. Would I have liked to have known more about the other guys? Yeah, but I don't think that would have made the film flow better, or it would have had me benefit anything. I know there is a disparity in the book that Ben, I believe his name was, the guy with the gum. Yeah, Hank, who was played by Ben Wang, that he is married, but apparently he is married and has a kid in the book.
Right.
So, and that's one of those things.
I think
like,
he says he has a kid though in there.
Yeah, he
does.
did
He
it.
does
Did
say
he?
his- yeah,
Yeah.
he does. Later on in the exposition. But Katie, I bring up the narrator because I think of, and this is going back again, talk about from the past, Stephen King's It when they did the miniseries and having the narrator fill in when they were in their childhood. That was I forget what the character was. Anyway, but having those little bits filled in. When I say flow, not the actual story flow, but just adding some stuff in there to give us that exposition that we need, that we're looking for, that we question about.
That's an interesting concept. I've never thought of it. I mean, I don't know. It's like, I think that if there was, if it was like more episodic, like 1 hour episodes or something like that, I could understand and I would like more exposition. But as a film in general, I don't think I wanted any more, just more of the fact that, like I said in my thing, that it surprises me that the boys wouldn't be saying like the winners' names and more of the winning, winning wishes that the guys had, and the different things with the states. That's one thing that I thought was kind of like, with a situation like this, and since it's a competition, that would have been something that happens. Because in any sort of dystopian um, uh, narrative or film, book, anything, like, there always is something. It's like, well, this base did this, or this district did this, or this family has this. So I felt like that was something that it's like they would have had that, especially with states. I mean, we're already like that now. So I mean, I feel like that would have been something that would have come up somehow or another. But I don't know. There's a whole lot of stuff that is questions and answers, but it doesn't take, it's some of those things that it didn't take away from the film for me. It was just a little thing that I thought like could have been tweaked.
And that's what I was going to say. If I think if there was a narrator, it would have taken me out of the film, because the way it was shot and the way it felt to me, I felt like I was there with them, like I was on the walk with them. And I know there was even some theaters that I had heard about had done these screenings where you
With the
on it.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have done that, but none of the theaters around here were offering that. But yeah, I think if there was, a narrator or something coming in explaining what was going on with, during the walk, it would have felt like I was watching it on the screen, like I was, and more so, and then actually feeling like I was there with one of the 49 other, people. That's the way it felt to me.
What would have been interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you guys brought up Ben Wang. I wanted to I had it in my notes here that I wanted to mention something about him, because I loved the fact that in this film, where there's not a whole lot of room for humor, he brought much needed humor to kind of break up a little bit of the tenseness. And I mean, I thought his character was so refreshing, even though I could tell from the beginning, this guy's not, I mean, he might make it far, but he's not going to be probably even in the top 10. I don't know. But he was a guy that you, again, because of his personality and the things that and the bond that he's come with, that you get invested and you begin to care about that person, that one. So I don't know. I thought his performance was really good. And
I felt
appreciated that little bit of comedy.
I hate to be this way without a spoiler alert, but it seemed pretty obvious what was going to happen from the start. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I mean, I
Oh,
think we
and
talked about
but again,
a lot
and
of
this
ways.
goes to the narrator. Having something that breaks it up, I think would have made it a better film, even if it had to be longer than an hour. And how long was it? 36 minutes, 40 minutes? It would have made it
40.
better. So sorry.
I would have liked to have seen, and again, this is a nitpicky thing because this is being televised, so everyone in the country is watching it, and I would guess that everyone in the country is being forced to watch it. I would have liked to have seen if they would have done like little flashes to different families in the United States, like watching it and what their reactions were and stuff like that. Not, I mean, obviously not long, like 3 seconds at most, just around the television and stuff like that. But that would have been very interesting to see, you know, how they deal with it, because we're seeing, you know, these boys and what their exuberance is, and it's almost that naivete that it's like, yeah, you know, I'm ready for this and all that stuff, and it's like you guys are really happy for a numbering, you know, for a number of you who do realize that at one point, I mean, everyone around you is going to die, even if you don't think so at the time. But yeah, just to see other people's faces.
I thought the same thing, that if this was being televised, that there would be some kind of like, you know, breaking, okay, update, you know, we, you know, such and such is, but then I also wondered if they did that when someone, you know, got their ticket or whatever, if it would have even felt more so like the Hunger Games when, you know, they showed the picture, the
No, because of the world that they live in, that's not possible.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in fact, even to your point, Katie, not showing the families because they want to keep that visual in your mind that they're
Well,
destitute, that they're struggling. If they show
they're,
things like
they're
that, it takes away from it.
and they're isolated. And I think if and then
Right,
it takes you out of that isolation feel and puts you with the family, and then
right. I
hard to
agree with that.
hard to bring you back and get that same feeling back, I think.
Well, and it's almost one of those things like, do we know like if these people think that it's kind of like a Logan's Run thing, and it's like, you know, punch your ticket means that okay, so you're gonna be involved in this like voluntary draft, and whoever gets picked, you know, if they punch your ticket, then you're gonna have to be in this like work camp or whatever that is, and they don't actually, people maybe don't even know that yeah, you're gonna die, they're gonna kill you.
It's a death march, folks. It's a death
Yeah.
march.
Well, I got one last thing that I wanted to ask if you guys at all thought of this too, is when it kind of Katie alluded to that there's a character who when it is clear that he is done, and he chooses to do something in a very violent way, um, to have his ticket punched or get his ticket. Did any of you feel like it was sort of this? I felt like for a minute it was like I felt like it was Billy from Predator.
Uh,
You you know what I
mm-mm.
mean? No, you didn't get that.
No
Oh
sacrifice like that.
no,
I mean, Billy didn't actually do it himself, but I mean,
that was more that to me was more the fact that it's like, look, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna go. I know I probably am not gonna win, but that doesn't mean that I'm happy about any of this, because like the whole thing says, it's like I feel like a number of these people like volunteer. I also feel like maybe some of them don't, that it they do bring up the fact that it is a draft. And
well,
it
yeah, they even mentioned that, you know, do you really feel like we really volunteered, because they kind of make it allude to the fact that maybe we really weren't volunteers. We,
yeah.
you know,
So
more
I feel
elect.
like with that, the person that you're talking about, I feel like that was one of those instances where it's like, look, again, I know I'm not going to win, I'm not going to be like the final two, or you know, I don't probably, just not even that he doesn't have the strength physically, but just the mental and, you know, that internal thing that I'm going to keep going. But he's like, that doesn't mean I'm not going to try and take out, however many I can to like make my message known and, hopefully stop this from, making some sort of an impact with my death. Not just that
Well,
it's like I had that and then I got, but that this is going to show you guys that it's like, no, you shouldn't do this.
well, and like you said, it kind of he at least took back enough control of the situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to go out on my terms. I may go out, but you're not. I'm not going to let you do it the way you want it to be done. So
Sorry, there's real quick that seeing it the second time that I did pick up on the when we do find out, and again, this is spoiler part, when we do find out when Stebbins says that he is the major's son, seeing it the second time when he gets his dog tag that the major says good luck son to him. And I was like, oh, look at that. Okay. And you don't really see him, you don't really see him say that or say anything to anybody else, but it's the whole fact that Stebbins always wonders if the major knows that he's I'm his son or something like that, and then he says something like that. So it was like, okay, all right. Again, this is why I sometimes watch it twice, because it's like sometimes I just like to I'm writing down notes so much that I can miss out stuff, and then the second time I'm like, okay, let me really focus on a number of these little things. And
didn't
yeah.
didn't he call Ray son at the end?
He might have, but it makes sense though with what he said. Him being a major and being an elder, you expect that to happen. But I think what Katie's saying is right about that. It's a nice subtle clue to what foreshadowing of what it's going to end up being. So I think both of them. I think it works in both cases with it. But I'll say this, folks. I think I'm going to be the outlier here. If you don't need to see it in the theaters, you don't have to worry about it. Wait for it to come out on VOD and TV. And I'm going to say this. It made about $30 million. By horror standards, it's a big box office hit. But by reality standards, it's not. So I'm not sure what this says about King stuff, because even The Monkey, for a certain extent, it didn't hit expectations. So are King's adaptations really worth doing it? We'll see with The Running Man, because I think The Running Man's going to be good, but I'm not sure, to be honest. Numbers don't lie.
I disagree. I think you should see The Long Walk in the theater to really, see the desolate areas that they walk through, and then the beauty of the country, and then, just all the elements, and like having to sit there and watching them walk and walk and walk and walk and walk. And they are re-releasing The Life of Chuck this Wednesday in theaters on October 1st. I highly recommend seeing that. It is my number one film of the year. It is my favorite film of the year. Tied with One Battle After Another, but Life of Chuck.
Wow.
And you know what, Katie, it's funny you say that, because I was thinking about this. They're talking about Eddington and One Battle After Another as those revolutionary films. They aren't including The Long Walk in that also. They should include it because it's a revolutionary film. It's just more traditional, like what we saw with Paul Thomas Anderson and Ari Aster. So it's something that should be put in there. And folks, it's a good film. I just don't think, if you want to see the landscape, desolate and beautiful, get in your car, go drive through your state.
Yeah. And I'll say the same thing. I thought it was a good film. It was definitely a difficult film to watch, especially, and we knew that going in. But what I would say is, if you don't have if you've missed it on the big screen and you do watch it at home, I would recommend doing it how I would have loved to have, and get a treadmill up there, get a nice projector with a big screen or something, and just enjoy it. And
then have your kids run in and pull you off into the darkness.
Make sure you video it, because I'd like to see some of those reels where people are going to step off or something and fall or whatever and get kicked back into their wall or whatever.
Well, and who knows? You could end up losing 15 pounds, like I guess these guys did doing the movie, because I guess they lost like 15 to 20 to 25 pounds. So they just had to keep walking and walking and walking and walking.
Yeah, just watch the movie on your treadmill every other day.
There you go. I love it.
Long walks saving all of us.
Exactly. And that's your health message from Postmortem.
That's right.
The more you, what is it? The more you learn, the more you know.
Yep.
And knowing is half the battle.
Battle. That's right.
G.I. Joe.
Well done, folks. Well done.
All right. It was great to get back together, get another episode out. We'll try to get together, do another. If anybody has anything out there that they would love to have us critique or do, then let us know. I know there's a few things coming out soon. I need
Actually, it's so funny you say that, because go out and support independent horror. Films like Nick Simon's Coyotes, which is coming out to AMC, Bone Hill's coming out, and what's the other one?
Shelby Oaks.
Shelby Oaks is coming out, but Shelby Oaks is going to have such a limited run with it. And that's why I say it. Go out there, because, folks, a lot of these films aren't going to be around like The Long Walk. They're going to be gone over a weekend, and that's it. There's another one, though. Wait, was it Shelby Oaks, Coyotes, Bone Hill, and there's one more. What's the other one that's coming out this week? Hold on, folks. Keep talking, Oz. I love you.
Man with the Black Umbrella is on Prime, which I just rented, and actually for a found footage film, it is pretty damn good and pretty scary.
I usually hate found footage films.
Well, Frogman is one of the best ones in the past 5 years. I love Frogman, and then this one's pretty good too.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. Don't go see The Strangers 2. Not worth it. Who said that? What? I'm sorry. Who said?
Okay.
And Good Boy.
I was
Good
going to
boy.
Oh,
Good boy. Go see that also. It's going to be gone before you know it, folks.
when does it
independent
come
horror.
out in theaters?
So Coyotes and Good Boys come out this weekend, my birthday weekend, weekend. So they come out October
we sing
2nd.
happy birthday to Jay.
No.
Okay.
Well, hey, if anybody wants to send Jay any cookies or anything for his birthday,
We're a horror show. Do you think that's going to turn out well? Come on.
hey, you can. Did you see at Horror Hound the vendor, the chocolate vendor that had femurs made out of? I mean,
I know.
I brought like truffled eyes balls to Janelle and white chocolate little teeth and everything.
Well, I have a bone to pick with you, so oh, thank you.
I would have loved to have bought one of those femurs. They look so real, but they were like
I know.
$50.
I know. Anyway, so yeah, check out Independent Horror. So thank you guys for setting that up.
All right, will do. All right, well, we'll see you in the next one. So take care of each other and stay spooky.